the leaves on the trees are falling too.
What's up, everybody? Welcome aboard to the Bubba Show, and what a great show and a special show we have for you today, being sponsored by nadex.com. We've got a series of guests coming on that are going to explain how binary options work and the best way to work them, and I think there's nobody better to start with than Dan Cook, the Director of Business Development of Nadex. Dan, how you doing today?
Doing fantastic. It's great to be here.
So, Dan, why don't you take us through a little bit of the binary model, what's going on, and what you guys are trying to do?
Definitely. Really where Nadex was founded and the principle it was founded on was really kind of opening up the markets to everyone, but doing that in a sensible manner, where people could control their risk. One of the contracts that really allows that is binary options. Probably a lot of your listeners have tried to get involved in commodities or other futures contracts and saw that there was a lot of risk, position risk, margin risk, things like that, and they just didn't have an opportunity to really compete with the big firms and the funds. And what Nadex really tried to do was open up the playing field for those people, to level it out, where they weren't competing and just getting wiped out in series of moves, where they could trade things like gold and oil and stock index futures, currencies, without the risk of losing more money than they have, or working in a really highly margined environment where they're competing against really the much more professional, type firms. And binary options really were the perfect contract for that. They're, $100, they're limited risk, getting in what your maximum losses are going to be. And, that's really the goal of the exchange, to open up the markets, to anyone that wants to get involved with risk capital.
And I agree. And, Nadex has become an extremely viable product for the average guy in the street, as well as for everybody, because everybody's got a fair shot, when you're trading. And you guys have grown by leaps and bounds, with your product and with the exchange that's going on. And I think one of the important things that everybody has to understand also is you guys are also backed by an exchange, correct?
Well, we are the exchange. We're backed by our parent company, IG Group, which is a multi-billion-dollar firm, and so we're very well capitalized. Nadex is in the United States, based in Chicago, regulated by the CFTC. So we are a true exchange. We're just here to match buyers and sellers. So we're not just some shop that's taking the other side of your trade. We just match buyers and sellers. We don't have a vested interest, and that's the key part of being an exchange is not being biased to the outcome of any trade. We settle to third-party markets. And so if somebody's trading oil, they have transparency as part of that exchange, where they can go in and they can get time and sales. They can ask, well, why did this contract settle this way? And they have that confidence, that transparency, where they have that price discovery, where they know exactly how that trade settled, why, and that there wasn't, it wasn't just some dark hole that their trade dropped into. It's all right out on the table.
And that's also important, and last week, obviously, we had, some major moves in the market, all the way across. And isn't the Nadex product, isn't the binary option a great vehicle to use for those types of moves in the market?
It really is. It's both limited risk and limited reward. But where it really comes in, a lot of people want to take advantage of that volatility. Traders want those opportunities. On the binary option side, though, it allows you to do that and this goes to whether you've never placed a trade in your life and you're just getting into the markets, or whether you're a professional looking to mitigate some risk. But what it allows is, when you have those big moves, they're great, as we all know, if they're running in your favor. But the problem if you're in a very highly leveraged environment is one big move like that and you're on the wrong side, and it can be lights out, show's over. Because if you don't have capital left to trade, or worse, you lost everything and you still owe more, that can't happen at Nadex. And that's one of the reasons why, particularly, we look at the reports when you have a big FOMC announcement. Their quarterly report came out. That tends to create a big stir in all markets. And people can get in with a lot of different strategies on binary options, where they can do it, again, in a sensible manner. Low risk. They can try to take advantage of that volatility, or maybe they have positions in another market where they're trying to mitigate some of that risk, and they wrap some binary options around an existing position.
So when we look at the model of what you're doing, obviously I think the first thing everybody needs to have is a little bit of knowledge and a little bit of education, correct?
Absolutely. I think they're great contracts, but the quickest way to lose your money in any market is to throw it in there without getting yourself properly educated. Starting out learning, the basics of the contracts, how they trade, how they move, the platform that they trade on, whatever platform you're trading on in any market. You don't want to make those silly mistakes that could cost you a lot of money. That's one of the reasons we offer a demo account for people to come in, try it out. They can participate in webinars, different education modules, so they can really get a feel. Because while I want people, as an exchange, we keep our lights on by volume, by people trading. But it doesn't make any sense for us or for anybody else to come in without the knowledge required to do that, with at least a bit of education, where they can come in and start out small and build up as their knowledge base continues to grow, as they get more experience in the markets. If they've already been trading for a while, it's typically a pretty quick education because they already understand things like risk and position sizing. But even if they're just starting out, it's a great way to get going. Try out the demo platform, check it out, see if it's something that's right, for them to participate in. If they're interested in gold, they've heard all about it, they can come in and practice trade on gold and see if this is something that's a fit. But they should always do that, before they put live money in. They should have a pretty good understanding of how the market moves, how a trade is placed on the platform.
All right, so now tell us, how does somebody get a demo account? Tell us how to get involved. Give us some of the information, please.
Definitely. If they just go to nadex.com, nadex.com, it takes it's a pretty long process. It takes about 32 seconds maybe to get a demo account.
I don't have that much time.
Then if you don't have 32 seconds, then trading might not be the right vehicle. But I know your schedule also, so I kind of believe you on that one. But if they go underneath trading on our website, they see demo trading account. Literally throw in some very basic information and be up and running in a matter of a minute or two.
That's really really interesting and really good. So when you look, and one of the big things in trading today is the day trading restrictions that you have if you're trading in the normal equity market. What's different in Nadex?
Well, that's been one of the big things for the individual that wants to try to actively trade stocks. They really can't. There's high capital requirements to do that, and there's these restrictions on how often they can get in and out of a certain instrument. With Nadex, there's no day trading restrictions. Some people, have trades that last 3 or 4 days. Other people prefer a very short-term outlook. Maybe they're just trading fundamentals, and they might trade the same contract in and out, several times a day, 10, 20 times a day. And so there's really no restrictions there, which is one of the reasons why I think we're seeing a lot of those people that used to be active in stocks and kind of got shut out of that market coming over to Nadex now, because they can actually be active again, and they don't have somebody telling them what their strategy has to be. They can pretty much formulate their own strategies, take some of the ones that we've created and use those as well. And so, yeah, those restrictions just aren't there for Nadex.
And what about margin?
Margin is always the risk on your trade. So if I buy a binary at $20 and no multiple there, it's just $20, so I can get in very low. If I buy that binary at 20, and that's $20, $1 per point, 0 to 100, it can't go below 0. And so rather than margin, it's really collateral. So it's kind of what I call effective leverage. It's not really leverage, but you kind of get the effectiveness of it without the downside of, hey, I have to call the wife and tell her the kids aren't going to college because I thought oil was going to 100 and now it's sitting at 85.
Wow.
And so it's really whatever your risk is on the trade, doesn't matter what happens. World War III could break out, and if you put $20 up on a trade, that's what you put in to secure it. You can't lose more than that. And there's a lot of confidence. That's a big psychological part of trading.
That's awesome, Dan, and thank you so much for bringing us the group today for the Nadex.com special. We'll have James Romelli up next from Keen on the Market. Dan Cook, thank you so much. This is a special being brought to you by Nadex, Nadex.com, Todd Bubba Horwitz, The Bubba Show.